I never planned for it to happen, it just did. Every afternoon in Mom's boutique felt like walking through a dream I wasn't allowed to touch. Satin whispered beneath my fingers. Lace slipped like water through my hands. And every pastel dress I unpacked felt like a secret invitation. She thought I was helping her run the business. In truth, I was barely holding myself together. The racks shimmered with everything I wanted to be soft, graceful, seen. My hair had grown long enough to brush my shoulders now, my nails shaped just enough to betray the truth if anyone looked too closely. Each tiny act of defiance, each quiet choice, wasn't rebellion anymore. It was survival. All my life I'd been surrounded by women's clothes, beautiful, colorful, impossible to ignore. And deep down, I wanted to wear them. Not just out of curiosity, but with a yearning I couldn't shake, one that only grew stronger with time. My name is Alex, 16, on the smaller side, but not enough for anyone to notice much. My job was in the back sorting shipments, tagging items, steaming dresses. Never at the counter, never in front of customers. But quietly, piece by piece, I'd collected my own secret wardrobe. Soft panties, a padded bra, pantyhose, a yellow dress, bright blue heels, and a tiny makeup kit I'd pieced together from old samples. I hid it all carefully in my room. And one afternoon, when Mom closed the shop early, I seized the chance. I took a shower, brushed my hair until it gleamed, and began dressing. Layer by layer, it felt like stepping into a different version of myself until I saw the reflection staring back at me. It wasn't what I'd imagined. The colors clashed horribly. Yellow dress, blue shoes, makeup streaked and uneven. My lipstick was crooked, foundation too pale. Only my hair looked decent. My heart sank. I wanted to look right, to feel right. But instead, I looked like a parody of what I wished I could be. Deflated, I trudged to the kitchen for a soda before changing back and froze. Mom was sitting at the table, calmly flipping through a magazine. I hadn't heard her come in. The silence between us stretched, long and unbearable, until she finally spoke. "Blue shoes don't go with a yellow dress, dear." That was it. No anger, no shock, no yelling. Just that. My body locked up, my mind racing for an excuse that wouldn't come. She stood and motioned for me to sit. "It seems," she said evenly, "that I'll have to show you how to dress properly." I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. She just smiled, almost amused. "Actually, this may work out nicely. I've needed help at the counter, and if we fix you up right, you could handle it." "Me?" was all I could manage. "Why not you? If you're dressed properly, you'll make a lovely girl, and I won't have to worry about the register. Besides, I've known about those clothes for a while." The floor seemed to tilt. She knew? All this time? "I know, if you really want to do this," she continued, "I'll help. We'll go to the shop and get you a full outfit that fits, with matching shoes. Then I'll show you how to do makeup and hair." It was everything I'd dreamed of hearing, but not like this. The thought of standing out front, where anyone from school could see me, sent a chill down my spine. One glance, one whisper, and I'd be done for. But she was already grabbing her keys, taking my stunned silence as agreement. We drove back to the boutique. I watched her work efficient, professional, as she assembled an entire look without asking my opinion. Pink dress, white heels, matching underwear, shapewear, a waist cincher, even breast forms. Then we stopped at a drugstore, and she tossed a few extra items into the basket: makeup, razors, polish remover. Back home, she turned to me and said, "Go to your room, take a quick shower, and leave on your briefs." What followed was more mortifying than getting caught. When I stepped out, my body was smooth and hairless, my skin tingling and my hair freshly washed. Mom waited, watching me in quiet concentration as I dressed piece by piece. Then she guided me to her room, sat me down, and started rolling my hair. The rollers tugged slightly, but her hands were gentle, practiced. She hummed under her breath, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Within minutes, my head was covered in a swirl of pink and blonde curlers tucked beneath a plastic cap. She painted my nails next a soft, romantic red and smiled approvingly. "You'll need to sit under the dryer for half an hour," she said. "I'll check on you later." The warm air hummed above me, filling the silence with a steady rhythm. My heart raced with every minute that passed. I didn't know what she planned next, but for the first time, I didn't want to stop her. I'd dreamed of this for so long, and now, somehow, it was really happening. Mom came back just as the timer buzzed, and I straightened instinctively, my nails dry and glossy. She handed me a pair of pantyhose, her tone calm, almost businesslike. "Put these on," she said, then the padded panty brief, waist nipper, and bra. "After that, we'll do your makeup." There was no hesitation in her voice, just quiet authority. I followed her instructions, layer by layer, as she sat on the bed watching, her expression unreadable. The waist nipper tightened around my middle, pulling everything into a shape that felt alien but strangely right. When she was satisfied, she led me to her vanity and said, "All right, now for the fun part." That's how my first real lesson in makeup began. "Use 2 fingers," she instructed, handing me the bottle. "Spread the foundation evenly, light strokes, no smearing. You're painting, not frosting a cake." I did as told, trying not to tremble. She nodded once. "Now, powder. Lightly, then brush off the excess." I blinked at my reflection, stunned. My skin looked smooth even, soft like it belonged to someone else. "Good," she said. "Now eyes, blue first. Thin line along the lashes." Her voice was low and focused, a teacher in her element. She guided me through every shade gray blending into blue, eyeliner above and below. Each step felt like shedding another layer of Alex. When she helped me pull the pink dress over my head and zipped it up, the fabric hugged the curves the padding had given me. The skirt flared lightly, brushing mid-thigh. She didn't let me turn to the mirror yet. "Sit," she said, and began removing the rollers. My hair tumbled down in soft waves. She brushed, teased, shaped, and clipped a pair of pink and white earrings onto my ears. Then she handed me white heels and motioned toward the mirror. I turned and froze. The person staring back wasn't me. She was delicate, soft-featured, her lips faintly parted in disbelief. "There you are," Mom said, a smile touching her lips. "Anna." It felt like the name belonged to the reflection. I can't believe it," I whispered. "I think I've proven my point, don't you?" she said gently. "Alex is gone for now. Meet Anna." I couldn't look away. My legs shapely, my face oval and almost pretty. There was no trace of the boy who'd once hidden a yellow dress in his closet. Mom continued, her tone practical. "Anna suits you better." Tears blurred my vision before I could stop them. She noticed immediately. "Careful, dear. Don't ruin your makeup. We'll just have to redo your eyes if you cry." "Why, Mom?" I asked softly. "Why are you doing all this?" She met my gaze in the mirror. "Because I told you I need help at the counter, and you need to dress as a girl. It's simple, really. We both get what we want." Her words hung in the air as she continued matter-of-factly. "Spring dances are coming soon. That means more customers, and I'll need you the most during the rush. So we'll expand your wardrobe. You should be dressed as Anna as often as possible until then, to get used to it." I stared at her reflection, stunned again. "You still want me to work out front?" "Of course. You'll be fine. You just need confidence and a few lessons on posture, gestures, how to move your hands." Before I could protest, she added briskly, "Come on, let's go to the shop and pick out more outfits. You can't wear the same dress every day." "You mean, leave the house? Like this?" She gave a half laugh. "You look lovely and you know it. Stop fussing and let's go." Without a purse, I followed her to the car, nerves buzzing under my skin. She shot me a sidelong glance as I slouched in the seat. "Sit up straight, Anna. Really, you look wonderful. We'll be there in a minute." At the shop, she treated it like any other fitting, efficient, professional, detached. I tried on dresses, skirts, blouses, shoes, 4 skirts, 3 dresses, more bras, a dozen panties. Each item made me feel both more terrified and more complete. Then she turned, eyes bright. I've got something special. Just in for trial. Silicone breast forms, they adhere to the skin and stay for months. Perfect realism. She held one out. It looked so real, I hesitated to even touch it. We'll wait until after school ends, she said. No need to rush that step. It felt like she was diving headfirst into something I was still tiptoeing around. But there was no stopping the current. We packed everything up and went home. Over the next 3 weeks, my evenings followed a new rhythm. Come home, change into Anna's clothes, practice walking, talking, smiling. Mom corrected every movement, how I turned my head, the way I held my hands, even how I laughed. We worked on my voice until it softened, gentle and musical. Finally, one evening, she leaned back, satisfied. When you were born, everyone said you were so pretty, I should have had a girl. I never thought I'd see it come true. But look at you now, you're beautiful. I didn't know how to respond. I only smiled weakly, heart pounding. The next morning was my first day out front. I wore a pleated tan skirt and a sleeveless white blouse embroidered with tiny flowers, short white heels, minimal jewelry. My palms were damp, my throat dry. But as I caught my reflection in the mirror one last time, Anna smiled back nervous. Yes, but ready. I did my own makeup that morning, foundation smooth, lips soft coral, hair brushed into light curls that framed my face, and Mom actually smiled when she saw me. Perfect, she said simply, handing me the shop keys. The moment I unlocked the door, the bell chimed and my stomach dropped. My first customer was a girl from school. She looked right at me, paused, then went browsing as if nothing was strange at all. I almost sagged with relief. After that, it was nonstop. Girls laughing, twirling in front of mirrors, trying on dresses while I helped them zip and smooth the fabric. I started to forget to be nervous. Then Jessica walked in. Jessica the Jessica. Everyone at school knew her. Beautiful, confident, the kind of girl who always seemed to exist in her own spotlight. My heart kicked up a gear when she smiled and said she needed help with a fitting. Mom had just left to grab lunch. I swallowed hard and followed Jessica to the back room. She stood there in her panties, calm and effortless, while I held up the new dress and helped her step into it. My hands trembled slightly as I pulled the zipper up, then down again when she wanted to try another size. I haven't seen you here before, she said, glancing at me through the mirror. What's your name? Anna. I just started. Her brow furrowed. You look familiar. Have we met before? Sorry, no, I replied too quickly, hearing the doorbell out front my salvation. I excused myself, pretending I had to check on a customer. By the time Mom came back, I'd sold 6 dresses and done 4 fittings. She was ecstatic, glowing with pride. Me? I was still trying to keep my heart from bursting out of my chest, but no one suspected a thing, not one curious glance, not one double take. By closing time, I wasn't terrified anymore. I was exhilarated. The next morning, I felt braver. I wore a short green skimmer dress that flared when I moved. Customers smiled, chatted easily. Mom didn't hover, she trusted me now. That Sunday, she asked if I wanted to go to church. Wear that navy suit with the pink blouse, Anna, she said. You look wonderful in it. I'll wear mine. When we stood side by side, it was almost comical. We looked like mother and daughter, matching in color and poise. At church, I saw several of our customers, girls waving cheerfully. Among them were Jessica and her friend Sarah. After Mass, they came over. That suit looks amazing on you, Anna, Jessica said brightly. Do you go to school around here? Not yet, I lied. Maybe soon. Sarah tilted her head. So, unattached? I smiled shyly and nodded. Jessica grinned. Anyone asked you to the spring formal yet? No, I said, trying to keep my voice light. Why? Because I know someone who'd fall all over himself to take you. Yeah, Sarah laughed. Her brother Mark the diplomat. Mark, captain of the debate team. Calm, brilliant, infuriatingly well-spoken. I knew him too well, everyone did. Would you like to meet him? Jessica asked. I'm not sure, I murmured. Mom called to me from across the courtyard. Anna, time to go. Bye, I said, smiling as I turned to leave. In the car, Mom was practically humming. They're trying to set you up for the spring formal? I said no. She sighed. A pity. I have a dress that was made for you. Mom, I can't go to the spring formal. And why not? She countered. You're every bit as lovely as any of those girls. They are girls, I said quietly. I'm not. She looked at me, eyes soft but sharp. Are you sure about that? What? About all of them being girls. What do you mean? One of those girls you sold a dress to might be a boy just like you. No way. Oh, yes. She smiled faintly. I'm not saying who, or even that it's true, but you're not the only one who's ever felt like this. Think about it. If they want to fix you up for the biggest dance of the year, maybe don't dismiss it so quickly. We stopped by the shop to pick up a few more outfits, casual skirts, soft blouses, and then went home. I had no intention of shedding Anna yet. I was still in my navy suit when the phone rang. Anna! Mom called from the kitchen. It's for you. Hi, this is Jessica, came the voice on the line, bright and confident. I told Mark about you, and now he's dying to meet you. Could you come to Pop's today? My pulse jumped. When? In an hour? Okay, I said slowly, but no promises. When I hung up, Mom was standing in the doorway, smiling like a cat that already knew the ending. So you decided to meet him after all? I'm just being polite. I'll say no, she hummed knowingly. We'll see. While you're out, I think I'll fetch that dress I mentioned. I felt like I was walking on a wire, Alex's memories tangled up with Anna's reflection. At school, they'd barely noticed me. Now they thought I was someone worth introducing. Someone desirable. The thought both thrilled and terrified me. I should have taken Mom's car but didn't. Instead, I parked outside Pop's and walked in, trying to breathe normally. Jessica waved from a booth near the back, sitting with Mark. Mark, this is Anna, she said cheerfully. Anna, my brother Mark. He stood as I sat, his gaze steady and warm. Jessica was right about you, he said, smiling. You're gorgeous. Would you like to go to the spring formal with me? Mark asked without missing a beat. Jessica groaned. Calm down, Tiger. Anna just met you. She winked at me, standing to leave. I'll give you two a little privacy. Bye, Anna, and don't worry. He doesn't bite too hard. Go easy on him. I'll try, I said with a nervous laugh. Once she was gone, the noise of the diner seemed to fade into a soft hum. Mark leaned forward, elbows on the table, eyes warm. We talked names, family, hobbies, everything true, except my school, and, of course, my real name. He was charming, funny, confident in that calm way of his that made people want to listen. Maybe we could go out Tuesday night, he said after a while. Just the two of us. Dinner, maybe? I hesitated only a moment before saying, All right, Mark, come by at 6. The words left my mouth before my brain caught up. How I'd managed to pull this off was anyone's guess. Still, I smiled, stood up, and said softly, See you Tuesday. I gave him my address, waved goodbye, and walked out feeling lightheaded. The next morning, I was back to Alex, hair tied back, nails filed short, no trace of perfume or mascara. I checked myself 3 times in the mirror before heading to school. Every gesture felt suspiciously feminine now. Every glance from someone felt like danger. Jessica, Mark, Sarah, they all knew Anna. If even one person connected the dots, everything would crash. Classes dragged by uneventfully until lunch, when Jessica slid into the seat across from me, grinning like she'd been waiting all morning. "So, Alex," she began sweetly, "how come you and Anna drive the same car?" I froze. "Who's Anna?" "Oh, come on," she said, laughing. "You really think I wouldn't notice? You look spectacular as a girl. It's actually unfair. Makes me jealous." "Jessica, what are you talking about?" I tried to play dumb, but she wasn't buying it. "Let's see. Your mom owns a dress shop. You're the right size. Your eyes are identical. Same smile, same little wave in your hair. And you just happen to drive Anna's car. Coincidence?" I tried to hide my hands, but she noticed the way I held them, fingers loose, graceful, like a girl. She smirked. "When I saw you at church, I wasn't completely sure," she continued. "But when your mom called you Anna, that pretty much sealed it." I stared, paralyzed. My stomach turned to ice. "I think I've made my point," she said softly. "Relax. Nobody else knows, just me. And I'm not telling a soul." "Mark," I croaked. She chuckled. "Mark's head over heels already. I told you he would be. And no, I'm not telling him either. Why would I? If he and everyone else can't tell, why spoil the fun?" She leaned forward, lowering her voice. "Besides, I like you. I always have. And as Anna, we can actually hang out. Every girl needs girlfriends, right? Especially the kind who understand both sides of the story." "Alex," I whispered. "Oops, sorry. Anna." She winked. I didn't hear half my classes after that. My brain was a blur of panic and relief. She knew, but she wasn't exposing me. Still, the secret felt heavier than ever. That night, I told Mom everything. She only smiled faintly. "You can't hide every detail forever," she said. "Just do your best, sweetheart. That's all anyone can do." Her calm didn't stop the worry gnawing at me. The next day at school, Mark walked right past me, Alex, without a flicker of recognition. My nerves eased a little. Later, Jessica found me again, eyes bright with mischief. "Mark's a mess," she said. "He's so excited about your date, he's practically vibrating." "You'd better be gentle with him, Anna." "Trust me," I muttered. "I've got more to lose than he does." That afternoon, I rushed home to get ready. Mom helped me pick a pair of tailored slacks and a soft cream sweater. "Simple, elegant," she said, braiding my hair into a neat French plait. I could barely keep my hands steady. Mark arrived exactly at 6, flowers in hand. I introduced him to Mom, who played the part of doting mother effortlessly, and then we left for a small Italian restaurant on Main Street. The scent of garlic and candles, soft music, the low murmur of voices, it all felt impossibly romantic. "So," he said, smiling over his glass of water, "have you decided about the spring formal?" It was the question I'd dreaded. Part of me screamed no, but the other part, the one that had spent the last week living as Anna, breathing as her, smiling as her, knew the truth. If I said no, I'd regret it. If I said yes, I'd risk everything. Mom's words echoed in my mind. "No one will ever find out if you don't want them to." I took a breath. "I'd like that, Mark," I said softly. "I'll be looking forward to it." His smile could have lit the whole restaurant. He reached across the table, took my hand gently. "I can hardly wait, Anna." He dropped me off early. It was a school night, after all. At the door, he hesitated, then leaned in. His lips brushed mine, warm and light. "Good night, Anna." "Good night, Mark," I whispered, dazed. "See you on the 5th. When I stepped inside, Mom was waiting in the hallway, arms crossed, and a knowing grin on her face. "I'll bring the dress home so we can fit it properly," Mom said, her tone brisk and efficient. "And of course, we'll need shoes, a purse, and jewelry to match. I'll schedule a salon appointment for you as well." I turned to her, exasperated. "What makes you think I said I'd go?" Her smirk was infuriating. "Because you're glowing, that's why." I could feel the heat rise to my face as I escaped to my room, shutting the door behind me before she could gloat further. I showered, trying to calm the mix of dread and nervous excitement twisting in my stomach. The next morning, I barely made it through the school doors before Jessica latched onto my arm, grinning from ear to ear. "You said yes," she whispered, dragging me down the hallway. "What choice did I have?" I hissed. "He's been talking about Anna nonstop since he met her. Now everyone knows about me." "They know about Anna," she corrected, eyes sparkling. "Not you. Relax." "I'm trying," I muttered. "Listen, silly," she said, shaking me lightly. "You look incredible, no? Better than that. Beautiful. I'll be at the dance too. If anything happens, find me, okay?" "Okay, Jessica. Thanks." The spring formal was on Saturday, and our last day of school was Wednesday. That left me 3 days to prepare. Mom called it plenty of time. I wasn't so sure. When she came home that evening, her arms were full of boxes. "These are for you, Anna. I ordered them as soon as I knew you were going to the formal. Want to see?" I already recognized the packaging for the breast forms, but the others were unfamiliar. "Come with me," she said, heading for my room. I sat on the bed as she opened the first box and peeled back the tissue paper. "This," she said, holding it up carefully, "will give you confidence." It looked like a full panty in soft, skin-toned silicone, padded at the hips and rear, and detailed enough to make me flush. "It attaches with the same adhesive as the breast forms," she explained calmly. "It has a built-in tube, so you'll have to sit when you well, you know? It's meant to be completely realistic, if you're careful." "Mom!" I squeaked. "You mean I could—" "I hope you don't," she interrupted smoothly. "But it's about confidence, Anna. Presentation. This completes the illusion." I turned it over in my hands, torn between curiosity and apprehension. "I think you should take care of your body hair first," she added. "Do that tonight, and I'll help you with the fittings in the morning." That night, I did as told, no hesitation this time. By morning, my skin was smooth, soft, and strangely unfamiliar. I slipped into my nightgown and fell asleep quickly, my nerves humming beneath the surface. At sunrise, I examined the silicone garment again, nearly done applying it before calling for Mom. Together, we pressed the seams flush to my skin, smoothing each edge until it felt like a part of me. Then came the breast forms, perfectly shaped, natural-looking. When she tapped one with her finger, I flinched. I could feel it. She grinned. "See? The manufacturer wasn't exaggerating. You can sense touch through them. Now go get dressed. We've got a busy day ahead." After she left, I stood before the mirror, running my fingers along the soft, warm curve of my chest, then the smoothness of my waist and hips. It was uncanny. For the first time, I felt like the reflection, and I were one person. I chose a light dress that hinted at my new cleavage, and when we arrived at the shop, Mom revealed the formal gown she'd chosen for me. It took my breath away. It was a deep emerald green satin that shimmered like glass under the lights. The bodice cut in a sweetheart shape, strapless, cinched with a rhinestone butterfly at the waist. The skirt billowed over petticoats like something out of a dream. "We have an hour before opening," she said. "Go change. I'll be there in a minute." I undressed in the fitting room, down to my new skin-toned undergarment, when Mom came in holding something I dreaded, a corset. "Don't look at me like that," she scolded gently. "You need this to fit the gown properly. Being a girl sometimes means enduring a little pain for beauty. Arms up." I obeyed. The corset wrapped around me like a vice, and as she pulled the laces tighter and tighter, I understood exactly what she meant. By the time she tied it off, I could barely breathe. My waist measured 22 inches, my chest pushed high and round into the built-in bra cups. "Don't worry," she said cheerfully. "They'll stay put." She slipped the gown over my head, zipped the back, and stepped aside so I could see. The transformation was staggering. Then, without warning, she began folding and pinning the neckline. "What are you doing, Mom?" I gasped. "Making alterations," like I do for all my girls. Just a little lower, it'll look more flattering. It's so low. Not so low, Anna. Just right. Trust me. When she finished with the darts and hem, she had me remove it so she could finalize the adjustments. I begged her to let me take off the corset, but she shook her head. You should wear it until after the dance to get used to it. It'll break in, and you'll be more comfortable that night. So I put my dress back on my everyday one and opened the front door for customers, my posture impossibly straight, the corset forcing every movement to feel deliberate and graceful. The first customer of the day strode in, her expression sharp and accusing. She froze when she saw me. "You're Anna?" she demanded. I nodded, smiling politely, despite my racing heart. "Yes, ma'am. Can I help you?" She stepped closer, studying my face, and just as my nerves began to crack, Mom appeared in the doorway behind me, her voice calm but firm. "Anna, I've got your dress almost done," Mom called from the back room. I turned toward her, but before I could answer, the woman who'd been standing in front of me straightened, her eyes flashing. "Can I help you?" I asked cautiously. "Oh, I think you certainly can," she said, voice sharp as glass. "I heard a rumor that this girl," she motioned toward me with disgust, "is your daughter. Is that true?" Mom didn't even blink. "Yes, it is. Why do you ask?" The woman lifted her chin, righteous fury flaring. "Because I have it on good authority that you have a son and no daughter. My name is Susan Miller. My son has been talking about this Anna for weeks, and he's taking her to the formal tonight. I will not have my boy made a fool of by a boy in a dress." Mom stared at her a moment, then said coolly, "I see. You're familiar with what a female looks like, I assume?" "Of course. What kind of question is that?" "The kind I ask before wasting my time," Mom snapped. "Let me close the shop, and we'll settle this right now. And afterward, I'll be calling my attorney." Mrs. Miller paled. She knew she'd walked into a trap. If she demanded proof, she'd be the one invading privacy. If she didn't, she'd never know for sure. "Fine," she said finally, her voice trembling. "Call your lawyer if you must, but I have to be sure." Mom crossed her arms. "You'll regret insisting, Mrs. Miller, but so be it. Anna, close the shop and come with me." My hands shook as I turned the lock. In the back room, Mom gave me a look of silent apology. "Just enough," she whispered. I nodded and lifted my dress, lowering my panties slightly, barely enough to show the illusion Mrs. Miller had demanded. Her eyes widened. The color drained from her face. "Are you satisfied, madam?" Mom asked icily. Mrs. Miller stammered. I suppose I was wrong. But you do understand, don't you? Marky is my baby. I didn't want him humiliated." "And what about my daughter?" Mom shot back. "You just forced her to prove something no one should ever have to prove." Her voice rose, sharp with fury. I stepped between them before it boiled over. "It's okay, Mom," I said softly. "Let me handle it." Mom's eyes met mine, full of questions, but she let me speak. I turned to Mrs. Miller. "Some people thought I was a boy," I said carefully, "but I've always been a girl. Pretending to be a boy was just easier for a while. But that's over. I'm a girl, and I'm proud of it, and I don't care who says otherwise." The room went still. Mrs. Miller blinked hard, then nodded. I saw for myself. I can't deny what's right in front of me. I'm terribly sorry for what I said and what I did." We stood there in awkward silence until she finally whispered, "Is there any way I can make it up to you?" I opened my mouth, but Mom beat me to it. "Yes, there is. You can pay for her entire ensemble dress, hair, nails, everything for the formal, whether she goes or not." Mrs. Miller hesitated, then pulled out her checkbook. She scribbled quickly and handed Mom a check for $1,000. "Please," she said, eyes downcast, "accept my apology." When the door closed behind her, Mom let out a long breath. "Well," she said finally, looking at me with a mix of shock and admiration, Now you've done it, young lady. I know, I said quietly. But it's true, isn't it? I always was a girl. Nobody knew but me. Mom's stern face cracked into a reluctant smile. I'm just glad you had that silicone panty on. That could have gone very differently. She looked down at the check, then suddenly started to giggle. What's so funny? I asked, exasperated. This covers everything. The dress, the forms, even that miracle panty. Mrs. Miller just financed your transformation. I couldn't help but laugh with her, the tension dissolving at last. So, I can still go with Mark? If that's what you want, she said, her tone softening. But understand after today, everyone will know something. The only difference is, they'll think you were a girl pretending to be a boy. Which honestly isn't the worst version of events. I'm still going, I said firmly, unlocking the shop door. Mom smiled faintly and disappeared into the back to finish my gown. I stayed at the counter, feeling light-free. The fear that had clung to me for weeks was gone. The truth, however twisted, had set me loose. That night, I told Mom I wasn't going back. Like you said, it's out of the bag, so why not just live it? She studied me, her eyes soft but serious. If that's your choice, then make it fully. No halfway, Anna. Saturday morning came with a nervous thrill. The salon was alive with the hiss of dryers, the clink of curlers, the scent of polish and hairspray. I loved every minute of it. My hair was trimmed and permed into soft, bouncy curls. My nails now acrylic, perfectly shaped and polished, a muted red gleamed under the lights. When I caught my reflection in the salon mirror, I smiled without hesitation. Driving home, I caught sight of myself again in the rearview mirror and laughed softly. The curls framed my face beautifully, and the faint chemical scent in my hair reminded me this was real permanent. No turning back, unless I shaved it all off, and that wasn't happening. When I stopped by the shop to show Mom, her eyes went wide. That's a perm, she gasped. Yes, Mother, I said, smiling. I told you I'm done hiding. It doesn't matter anymore, does it? I know what you said, Anna, she murmured, still stunned. I just never thought you'd actually. You told me once that I looked like a girl the day I was born, I said, my voice steady. Well, now I am that girl grown up, and proud of it. I'm not hiding anymore. Not from them, not from myself. Mom stood silently for a moment, then nodded slowly, her expression softening into something close to pride. Then I suppose you'd better go home and get ready for the formal. I smiled, tears pricking my eyes. Thanks, Mom, I whispered. I will. I'd barely been home 10 minutes when the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Jessica on the porch, hair perfectly set, nails gleaming under the late afternoon light. Can we talk, Anna? Of course. Come in. We sat across from each other in the living room. She twisted her fingers, searching for words. My mother can be such an ass sometimes, she blurted finally. She overheard me talking to you the other night and decided to look into things. I tried to stop her, but when she's in one of her moods, forget it. She actually went to see you. I'm so sorry. It's okay, Jessica, I said softly, because I am a girl. Her head snapped up. What? I said I'm a girl, and I intend to stay one. I'm done hiding. For a heartbeat, she just stared. Then a grin spread across her face. That's incredible. Mom said she saw you herself, and that you were as much a girl as I am. I thought that had to be some kind of trick. It's not, I said, standing. And I can prove it. Her eyes widened as I lifted my dress just enough for her to see what she needed to. Between that and my figure, the disbelief melted from her expression. I'll be damned, she whispered. Why didn't you tell anyone sooner? I was scared, I admitted. Scared of being laughed at, or worse. Jessica shook her head. Well, you don't need to be. You look amazing, Anna. No one's going to doubt you now. Does Mark know anything? I asked cautiously. Mom told him she met you, that you're lovely, and that she can't wait to see pictures of the two of you tonight. Jessica laughed softly. She changed her tune fast, didn't she? Faster than I expected, I said, half smiling. I have to go finish getting ready, she said, rising. But I'll see you there? Of course. She hugged me before she left, and when the door closed behind her, I stood there smiling. Whatever came next, one thing was certain: I wasn't going back. When school started again in the fall, I'd walk through those halls not as Alex, but as Anna. I undressed and stood before the mirror, studying the reflection that stared back. The breasts, the narrow waist, the smoothness of my body, it was all so real now. My new curves looked natural, alive. I traced a hand down my side, whispering to the mirror, "Some trick." Then I ran the bath and let the water fill the silence. I had just stepped from the tub when Mom came in. "It was slow at the shop," she said, smiling. "I closed early. I wanted to be here with you." "Thanks, Mom." She sat on the edge of my bed, holding something small and silver. "After you left, I thought about what you said. You're right, you always were a girl. So if you're my daughter, then you should have this." She placed the ring in my palm, a delicate silver band with scrollwork softened by age, two small diamonds still bright with life. "This was your great-great-grandmother's wedding ring," she said softly. "It's been passed down to the oldest daughter ever since she died. Now it's yours." I slipped it on my finger. It fit snugly, warm against my skin. "Thank you, Mom." She smiled through tears. "Now, let's get you ready for your debut." I started with the green satin panties. Mom fastened the corset around me again, tightening until I could barely breathe. I adjusted my breast to sit perfectly in the cups and rolled on the stockings. "Pull the garter tabs under your panties," she said, demonstrating. "Otherwise, you'll have to undress every time you use the bathroom." At the vanity, I did my makeup carefully, richer colors, bolder eyeshadow, a touch more blush. The green gown slid over me like water, and Mom zipped the back slowly, admiring her handiwork. "These," she said, fastening sparkling emerald and rhinestone earrings to my ears, "are borrowed from the shop. And this," she added, clasping the matching necklace so it rested between my breasts, "finishes it perfectly." I chose a plum lipstick and a hint of obsession perfume, packed a small purse with $20, tissues, and lipstick, and turned to the mirror. From the awkward boy who'd once stood crying in an ill-fitting yellow dress, to this, it felt unreal. "Thank you for everything, Mom," I whispered. She reached up and brushed a tear from my cheek. "No, sweetheart, thank you. You've been so brave and honest with me. I'm proud of you." We hugged, and she smoothed my hair once more. "Now, stay in your room until Mark arrives. A girl must make an entrance." When I heard her call my name, I stepped out carefully, holding the skirt so it wouldn't catch, and descended the stairs. Each step sent the satin swaying around me. Mark stood in the doorway, tall and nervous, and when his eyes found me, they widened. A smile spread across his face, pure and unguarded. "God, you look wonderful, Anna." "Thank you," I said, my voice catching slightly. Mom took a few pictures, beaming. Then we were off. At his house, Mrs. Miller greeted me like a long-lost daughter, hugging me so tightly it nearly knocked the air from my lungs. Jessica was there too, radiant in a red gown beside her date, David. "Anna!" she exclaimed. "You look incredible!" We posed for more photos, laughter and camera flashes filling the moment, and then we were on our way to the formal. My nerves spiked as we stepped through the doors, music pulsing, lights spinning, people turning to look. For a terrifying second, I thought I'd be exposed somehow. But Mark's hand was steady on mine, his smile easy and proud. I walked beside him, head held high, the skirt whispering around my legs. And for the first time, truly, completely, I felt like I belonged there. We found a table with Jessica and David and two other couples, faces I knew far too well from school. Mark handled the introductions easily, while I smiled, doing my best not to slip up. It was surreal sitting there as Anna, surrounded by people who'd known Alex for years, and not one of them showing a hint of recognition. Mike, the boy across from me, could hardly keep his eyes from drifting downward. Every time I caught him staring at my chest, he'd flush bright red, and I'd hide a small, satisfied smile behind my glass. I'd wanted to know if I could pass completely, and from the look on his face, the answer was a resounding yes. When Mark led me to the dance floor, his hand firm around mine, the butterflies in my stomach were wild. His presence was pure confidence, his cologne, the warmth of his chest, the strength in his arms. I'd never been attracted to a boy before, not really. But with him, everything felt different, natural, dangerous. We swayed through 2 songs before Jessica pulled me and Sarah toward the ladies' room. Inside, we laughed, touched up our makeup, whispered secrets like ordinary girls. As we came out, Jessica caught my arm and lingered in the hallway. "I don't know what you're doing to him," she said, grinning. "But Marky is glowing, Anna. He has it bad." I felt a heat rise in my cheeks that I couldn't blame on blush. "Just be careful," she warned softly. "Even if he's my brother, he's still a guy, and guys only think about one thing. In his case, that thing is you." I smiled nervously. "Don't worry, Jessica. I like him, but I'm not planning to, well, you know." She laughed. "Right. And pigs can fly. Just be careful, Anna." The rest of the evening felt like a dream. No one questioned who I was. Everyone treated me as just another girl in a sea of satin and perfume. I even danced with Mike and David, feeling more confident with every song. When the dance finally ended, Mark suggested we grab a bite, so we drove back to the same cozy Italian place from our first date. Candlelight shimmered across the tablecloth as he reached into his pocket. "Anna," he said, smiling nervously, "I want you to have this." He held out his class ring. For a second, I couldn't breathe. It wasn't just a gift, it was a declaration. The ring meant belonging, commitment, and in a way, exposure. If I wore it, it would mark me as his girl. And in the fall, when I started school again as Anna, it could unravel everything. But I also couldn't deny the way his gaze made me feel. I rolled the ring between my fingers, pretending to think, then smiled and slipped it into my purse. His grin told me he understood that as a yes. After dinner, he drove us out to a quiet spot overlooking the lake, the air thick with tension and perfume. I knew what he wanted. And, if I was honest, I wanted it too, just not all the way. My dress and corset made anything beyond kissing impossible, which was probably for the best. He leaned in, his lips brushing mine, his hand warm against my back. The world melted away. For a few minutes, there was only us, the rhythm of our breathing, the press of his chest, the dizzying realization that I was responding not as a boy pretending, but as a girl who wanted to be wanted. Eventually, he pulled away, breathless and grinning. I was trembling, caught between exhilaration and fear. When he dropped me off, I gave him one last smile before slipping inside, where Mom was waiting in the hallway, arms folded, expression unreadable. She didn't say a word until her eyes fell on the ring hanging from a chain around my neck. "So," she said finally, "I take it things went well?" I sank onto the couch and told her everything: how Mark kissed me, how my heart raced, how part of me had wanted to let him go further. Mom listened without judgment, then sighed. "Every woman feels that way at some point, Anna. The difference is, your situation is more complicated. You like him, and he likes you, but there are truths between you that can't come out without hurting both of you. And you're still too young for that kind of intimacy, no matter what body you wear. Do you understand me?" "Yes, ma'am." "Good. Now go put on something comfortable before you ruin that dress." I laughed a little, relieved, and went to change. I threw on my old denim shorts, a fitted top, white socks, and sneakers. I brushed out my hair, dabbed on a little foundation and powder, And when I caught my reflection, the line between who I had been and who I had become was gone. The shop stayed closed that day. Mark and I kept seeing each other for a while. Dates, movies, long drives. But as summer turned into fall, it faded naturally, sweetly. There were no fights, just the quiet understanding that life was moving us in different directions. I stayed on at the shop, and Mom supported me through every step of the treatments that followed. The first signs of change came slowly, a tingling under my skin, a pressure in my chest that would soon blossom into something real. I'd packed away all my old clothes long ago. The boy they belonged to didn't exist anymore. Now I wore only what felt right: skirts, blouses, perfume, grace. Mom and I started going to aerobics classes together, laughing through the routines, each of us chasing our own version of transformation. When I looked in the mirror one evening, the reflection smiling back wasn't pretending anymore. She was everything I'd fought to be: alive, confident, and finally at peace. And though my story wasn't over, one truth was clear. From this point forward, every page would be lived as Anna.